last week was crazy, and everyone was talking about what happened with P. Diddy, but so much more was going on in the world, and especially the United States, that I don't even want to talk about Diddy, because let's be realistic. It's pretty much a distraction, because there's a gang war in Chicago about to pop off with the black gangs and the illegal immigrants, and it seems like it's going to be a bloodbath if something doesn't happen.
After we heard about a police report last month that the Trendeawagua gang had taken over an office building there, we spoke to a number of young, hardcore gang members, as well as gang elders who have retired from the life, and just regular citizens who are very much part of the community. And they're all furious at the estimated $500 million that's reportedly been funneled toward new migrants in Chicago since 2022. And they aren't happy either about what they say are Venezuelan criminal gangs that are leaving the shelters and spilling out into the South Side into abandoned buildings. I spoke to Tyrone Muhammad of Ex-Cons for Trump, who runs a street patrol and violence prevention program. He's gone straight since his days as an enforcer for the Gangster Disciples. And he said the situation is very tense on the South Side as turf battles between the local gangs and Venezuelan migrants heat up.
It is impossible to release gang members and criminals into our country through the borders and broken walls, and infiltrate them in our communities that's already impoverished, that's already broken, that's already disinvested. And when the black gangs, the leadership in the black gangs in Chicago get fed up with the illegalities and the criminal activity of these migrants or non-citizens, the city of Chicago is going to go up in smoke, it's going to go up in flame, and there's going to be nothing that the National Guard or our government can do about it when the bloodshed hit the streets, blacks against migrants.
Zach Massey did time in state prison with Tyrone Muhammad, although he's only 27. He's a leader on the streets and said he's disgusted by the money going to Venezuelan migrants at the expense, he says, of the African-American community.
I finally actually talked to him on the translator app, and he told me all the things that he got going on, how they help him get a car, apartment, clothes, link. So it's just like, I just be looking at it like they ain't got no Social Security number. Where they come from? He probably not even here legally.
They get right here. They get quick housing, quick funding, food. They get cars with no license. They can't even read English and stuff like that. So they get all these perks when they get here, and we still here starving. So what we gonna do about it?
And you may think that this is an exaggeration and it's just this one city and it's not happening everywhere else, but no, it's happening all across the country, New York, Philadelphia, on the southern part of the United States, and it's a lot worse than what you would think, because Donald Trump was not lying when he said that the crime rate in other countries is going down because they're sending all their criminals over here.
Sandra, bear with me. We just got these numbers moments ago, but it's a jaw dropper to say the least. So to set the stage here, let me just explain what these numbers mean. ICE has something called a non-detained docket. Essentially what that is it means migrants who were encountered by DHS but are no longer in federal custody. So who's on this non-detained docket? It's illegal immigrants who were caught and released at the border, released with the court date years away. They're in immigration proceedings, combined with illegal immigrants who have already been ordered deported from the country by a judge but are still here roaming the country. So keep that in mind, this non-detained docket. According to a letter that the acting director of ICE just sent to Texas Congressman Tony Gonzalez, on ICE's non-detained docket, they're currently tracking 425,000 non-citizens who have been convicted of a crime. Of that number, over 13,000 non-citizens have convictions for homicide and are on the non-detained docket, meaning they're roaming the country right now. On top of that, there are another 15,811 non-citizens convicted of sexual assault who are roaming the country right now on ICE's non-detained docket. It doesn't stop there. Those are convictions. The ICE director also says there are currently just under 1,900 non-citizens on the non-detained docket who have pending homicide charges who are roaming the country, and another 4,250 non-citizens who have pending sexual assault charges who are roaming the country on the non-detained docket. So people's eyes might be glazing over right now with all the numbers we just threw at you. Just to put it in a nutshell right here, what we've learned from the acting ICE director via this letter to Congressman Tony Gonzalez is right now there are over 13,000 illegal aliens convicted of homicide who are roaming the United States right now. There are another 15,811 illegal aliens roaming the country right now who have been convicted of sexual assault, and there are even more who are facing charges for homicide and charges for sexual assault. So this just goes to show, guys, the non-detained docket has exploded under the Biden administration to over, I believe it's 7.3 million. They're anticipating it could hit 8 million by the end of the year.
And since a lot more Americans are paying attention to what's going on the southern border and want to go against all these illegal immigrants coming into the country, Kamala Harris is trying to make this her key point to pay attention to, saying that she's going to do something about it, even though that she's currently the vice president of the United States right now. But yeah, she took this moment to have a photo op trying to make it seem like she cares about what's going on the southern border.
Stay off the concrete, back over here. Off the concrete, back over here, please. Stay off the concrete over there, back over here.
Be no love for me or Republicans for Kamala Harris today. In fact, I think the Trump campaign line today ought to be arsonist returns to scene of crime. I mean, look at the last 3.5 years. We've got the border has effectively been open, people flowing across. ICE today released information that there are 13,000 non-citizens convicted of homicide and almost 16,000 non-citizens convicted of some kind of sexual crime who are in the country right now. Only because we're in the shadow of an election is Kamala Harris trying to rush and pay some lip service to this issue as a tactical matter. Anderson, I don't think Harris should be trying to elevate this issue because this is the best ground from which Donald Trump has to fight. So, no, I think the Harris campaign is making a tactical mistake, and I think they have very little to say that the American people are going to buy on this today.
I want you to remember that Joe Biden and Kamala Harris ran on opening the borders. They said that Donald Trump wanting to build a wall was racist. And what was it that she kept saying that the wall was for Donald Trump?
It's the president's vanity project.
His multi-billion-dollar vanity project called a wall is nothing more than a distraction from the fact that he actually hasn't focused on working people in America. He contrived a national crisis around his big distraction. Down with deportation! Up with education! Down with deportation! Up with education!
Now that the American people are paying attention to what's going on in the country, Kamala Harris has changed her tune. Now she wants to build a wall, and I don't even know how people can skip over the fact that now that she wants to build a wall, that it's not racist anymore, even though it was never racist in the first place. But yeah, now she wants to build a wall.
I've just come from visiting the border and the port of entry in Douglas. I spoke with dedicated agents from Border Patrol and Customs officers who every day see the overflow of commercial traffic through the port. These men and women who work there and at other places along our southern border help keep our nation secure. And they need more resources to do their jobs, which is why we have and are in the process of investing $500 million to modernize and expand the port of entry here in Douglas. And why last December I helped raise the rate of overtime pay for border agents, and also why I strongly supported the comprehensive border security bill. Written last year, as you know, by a bipartisan group of senators, including one of the most conservative members of the United States Congress. That bill would have hired 1,500 more border agents and officers. It would have paid for 100 inspection machines to detect fentanyl that is killing tens of thousands of Americans every year. It would have allowed us to more quickly and effectively remove those who come here illegally, and it would have increased the number of immigration judges and asylum officers. It was the strongest border security bill we have seen in decades. It was endorsed by the Border Patrol Union, and it should be in effect today, producing results in real time right now for our country. But Donald Trump tanked it. He picked up the phone and called some friends in Congress and said, stop the bill. Because you see, he prefers to run on a problem instead of fixing a problem. And the American people deserve a president who cares more about border security than playing political games and their personal political future.
All right, I just want to make this perfectly clear. This bill that she said that came up to secure the southern border, that Donald Trump apparently, by calling some people in Congress, made them change their mind. It wasn't to secure the southern border. I'm sorry, people, tell the truth. She's lying like always. It was money for what's going on with the Ukraine and their war with Russia. Majority of the money was going over there, and whatever was left over, it may have secured the border, but let's be honest. They want to send all the money to Ukraine. And it's kind of funny because the wall that was supposed to be built on the southern border was only going to cost $5 billion. And it's pretty much chump change to what we sent over there to Ukraine, because we sent $200 billion for Ukraine to secure their border. But guess what happened? They ended up invading Russia. We wanted to secure the border of Ukraine from Russia, and they invaded the country. So that was a waste of money. But yeah, that's what happened. And it's kind of crazy because the president of Ukraine came over here to Pennsylvania to talk to the governor of Pennsylvania, Shapiro, who was supposed to be the actual vice presidential candidate for the Democratic Party, but he's Jewish, and leftists don't like Jews right now, whole Israel-Palestine thing. But yeah, he came over here for a little tour, and they decided to sign some bombs.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you.
Also, while President Zelensky was over here, he decided to talk to the Pennsylvania voters and to tell them not to vote for Donald Trump. And I don't even care his reasoning, because he shouldn't have an opinion about our elections. He's a foreign leader, and he should not try to interfere with them at all. And it's kind of crazy that we're still giving money to these people, and they actually invaded Russia. And mind you, Kamala Harris, with all these promises that she's making about the wall, about the war effort and all this stuff, she can actually do something about it right now, because she has the power to. And Joe Biden actually accidentally came out on The View and said that she does, like now, currently.
Mr. President, the Vice President has been working hard to get her message out to voters, and she's been drawing large crowds. Crowds are a thing for some people. There is momentum among Democrats.
For as long as you count right.
There is some momentum among Democrats that we're seeing. As the only person who has ever beaten Trump, what advice have you given the Vice President about how to win?
Be herself. Look, she is smart as hell, number one.
Yeah.
She's tough. She was a first-rate prosecutor. She is a United States Senator of significant consequence. And as vice president, there wasn't a single thing that I did that she couldn't do. And so I was able to delegate her responsibility on everything from foreign policy to domestic policy. Look, the one thing we have in common, she and I, two basic things that are different, departed from some Democrats, some past Democratic notions. We thought the way to build this country and build the economy, which was left in tatters, was to build a middle class.
Right.
To build a middle class from the bottom up. It would increase. It would give the poor folks an opportunity, give the middle class a chance to grow, and the wealthy could still do well. They should start paying their taxes.
They should, yes.
But all kidding. And the other thing is that I don't know all of a sudden how we're so down on the prospects of America. There's nothing we've ever set out to do we haven't been able to do as a people. And we've done it together. Nothing. And so I just think she has the energy, she has the intelligence, she has the grit, she has the stamina, and she has the guts to do the right thing.
So I just want you to know that all the things that she's promising to do when she gets in office, she can actually do now. But the reason why she won't and the reason why she's promising she will is because she's a liar. And that's because she's a Democrat, because Democrats lie. And we've learned that Democrats lie all the time. After Steven Crowder and his team went undercover and exposed a doctor named Dr. Jay Varma, who was right beside Mayor Bill de Blasio during the whole COVID epidemic, and how he lied to the people.
If you're just catching up, Dr. Jay Varma was caught on camera, secretly recorded, talking about how he hosted drug-fueled sex parties, went to underground raves, and had to, quote, be kind of sneaky about it because he was running the entire COVID response in the city. Former Mayor de Blasio praised him for his handling of the pandemic, which included a highly controversial vaccine mandate that got some people fired and forced others to quit their jobs. Neither de Blasio, who appointed Varma, or the current mayor, Eric Adams, commented on the scandal, but this certainly isn't the last we'll be hearing about it.
Do you think you'd have gotten like a hard time if New York City found out that you were having sex parties during COVID?
Yeah, it would have been real embarrassing.
Yeah. In a scathing video released by conservative podcaster Steven Crowder, Dr. Jay Varma, New York City's former COVID czar, boasts about throwing sex parties during the height of the pandemic. The clips posted to Crowder's YouTube channel seem to have been compiled from several different recordings where Varma is caught on camera speaking to a woman about hosting drug-fueled orgies with his wife and attending underground dance parties with more than 200 people.
It was fun. We all took Molly.
In a statement released to the New York Times, Varma said he was targeted by an operative for an extremist right-wing organization determined to malign public health officials and take down the public health system in America. He added, "I stand by my efforts to get New Yorkers vaccinated against COVID-19. Varma didn't deny the recordings were real, but said they'd been spliced, diced, and taken out of context. He also admitted to attending 3 gatherings between August 2020 and June of 2021.
Everything that we do to prevent infections, keeping distance, wearing masks, washing our hands, we need to be even more rigorous about.
During that same exact time period, Varma regularly appeared on Fox 5, encouraging New Yorkers to mask up, stay home, and practice social distancing as public health officials sought to contain the deadly virus.
These new variants account for 51% of all cases that we have in the city right now.
He also sat next to former Mayor Bill de Blasio, who tapped him for the job during daily news briefings, updating New Yorkers about the city's progress in stopping the spread. Elected officials on both sides of the aisle are now speaking out. Joe Borelli, the city council's Republican minority leader, told The Times, "I recall being treated like a pariah for pointing out the obvious at that time, that many of our so-called leaders were just making up illogical rules as they went along. Still, I couldn't have predicted how full of it they actually were." Democratic City Councilman Robert Holden called on the current mayor, Eric Adams, to investigate, telling the paper in part, "It's alarming, especially with so many first responders, city workers, and everyday New Yorkers losing their jobs."
And did you hear that? The people of New York want Eric Adams to investigate what went on during the COVID restrictions, but he's currently being indicted himself. So, go figure what's going to happen from there. But Jay Farmer did get fired from his job.
I was like, you're going to have to do it this way. And so he came up with this metaphor. We're going to climb this ladder. We're going to first start voluntarily, and then we're going to be pushing it. He's a bit of a weenie. I mean, he had a lot of problems.
A bit of a what?
Oh, he's a weenie. He's like, he didn't have the courage to tell people to off because he's very. So I have mixed feelings about it.
So I want to remind you that this man played a major role and was pretty much the blueprint of what happened across the United States to deal with COVID. The media and politicians said that New York City handled this the proper way. And what happened? Well, he was lying about the whole situation. A lot of businesses closed down. People died. And also now we're come to find out that COVID restrictions and lockdowns had a major effect on children.
A new study finds that teenagers' brains actually aged rapidly during COVID-19, that lockdown era. The findings showing that teenage girls were more affected than teenage boys, potentially impacting their mental health and even their behavior. ABC's Rhiannon Alley with more.
A new study is revealing unusual changes in teenagers' brain development during the pandemic.
It's not that surprising to know that there are actual brain changes that happened during the pandemic, given everything that teens, especially teen girls, faced.
The study found COVID-era lockdowns ended up aging teenagers' brains faster than the usual rate, more than 4 years faster than usual in girls, compared to just over a year faster in boys.
The authors hypothesized that adolescent girls were affected more than boys because they may be more dependent on that social interaction and being able to connect with their friends.
Back in 2018, researchers began tracking brain changes in 160 people, ages 9 to 17. They found lockdowns contributed to an increase of anxiety, depression, and behavioral disorders, causing their brains to mature faster. The same type of accelerated brain aging has been documented in teens who've suffered severe trauma, stress, and neglect.
But it's important to note that these studies don't exactly tell us what the long-term effects are or if the process can be reversed or slowed down with the right type of emotional support moving forward.
Well, there are two things specifically that this research has shown me, and one is the lockdowns had a very negative effect on the children and teenagers, because who knew that kids should socialize? Go figure. And who knew that we should probably not jump to conclusions and try to shut down an entire planet before we know what's going on. And also, number two, that there is a difference between males and females, between boys and girls, because clearly this study shown that there are two different type of brains, and it seems to be based on sex. But let me know in the comment section down below, what do you think about everything that's going on? Do you think that this immigration thing should just slow down? Me personally, I think we should just close the border and not let anyone else in, period. Or do you think, we need open borders? And also, do we still need to be involved in what's going on in Ukraine and Russia? Or should we just stay to ourselves and fix our own country? And then COVID. Can we actually have a serious conversation? Can we say that we probably panicked and made the wrong move? There's a lot going on in the world, and I'm telling you right now, just even what I've seen in the news today about the biolab explosion that happened in Conyers, Georgia, and also with the vice presidential nominee for the Democratic Party, Tim Walz, shooting birds at people because they're cheering for Trump. Like, where are we at? I'm your host, TJ Evans, with another installment of the TJ Evans Show. Remember, don't take my word for gold. Y'all do your own research. Y'all stay safe, stay prayed up. Do the YouTube and Rumble thing. Subscribe to the Royal Family Studios page. Like this video. Tell your friends about us. Go check out my book on Amazon, The Diary of Marvin Dwayne. Y'all stay safe, stay prayed up. Peace.